You ever been at the fish store and you've seen like the coolest looking fish you've ever seen and you're like, oh, I've got to have that. We've all done it. And if you say that that's never happened to you, well, you're lying. But hold on, let's think about this for a second. That fish that you want so badly, you might take it home and find out that it is a murderer and it wipes out your entire tank. Here is our list of fish that if you buy them, you might just be buying a murderer. This one is super obvious, and to not waste any of your time, let's just get on with it. Oh boy, what do I say about flower horns? You either love them or hate them. As for me, well, I love them. But you'll probably never see me with one, and it's for the whole reason this video is being made. There's a reason you always see videos online of flower horns in tanks by themselves. The reason is exactly what you think. They'll kill anything you put with them. It doesn't matter if it's another cichlid, a pleco, or even a plant. If you put it with a flower horn, it dies. Period. Now, with that said, flower horns are incredibly popular. There's farms breeding them exclusively, there's tons of clubs and groups supporting these fish, and there's even competitions to see whose are the best. The flower horn community is vast and dedicated to these fish, and if I'm being honest with you, I think it's awesome. These fish get very big, so don't pay attention to the people you see online that keep them in 20 or 29 gallon tanks. The justification is, if I'm going to dedicate an entire tank to one fish, I'm not going to use one of my big ones. This is just wrong. If you're going to commit to a fish like this, commit to them 100%. You're the one that chose a fish that has to be alone in the tank. Don't punish the fish because you want something cool. 125 gallons at the minimum is what I say, but I'm admittedly not a flower horn person, so I could be wrong. I just like to use common sense. Flower horns to me are like snakes. They're super cool and fun to look at, but I'll never own one myself. I'll just admire other people's flower horns. And when it comes to snakes, there's another reason for that too. It's that I value my marriage and I'd like to keep it intact. Lisa despises snakes.
Okay, wait a minute. Betas are cute and sweet. How can you call them murderers? Well, where do you think the name Siamese fighting fish came from? You see a lot of tanks with only betas in them, but the reason is very different from flower horns. Flower horns will kill anything in sight, where betas pretty much single out other betas, but they definitely have attitudes and can break bad on just about anything. It's in their nature to want to fight, so if there's a fish with them they feel threatened by, they'll take them out, but for the most part, they get along with most community fish. When people reach out and they ask what else they can keep a beta with, I usually recommend snails because they pretty much leave them alone. But sometimes people want a little bit more action in their tank. They want, more stuff going on in there. For those people, I usually suggest community fish like Harlequin rasboras, mollies, platies, and corridoras, but it's really important that you understand your beta can change his mood really quick. The thing is, a fish spontaneously changing its mood and becoming a killer can be said about almost any kind of fish, but it's a lot less surprising when it comes to betas because of their reputation. They kind of have a bad one. There's 3 kinds of fish that you should absolutely avoid putting with your beta. You shouldn't mix these fish under no circumstances. And if you do, I'm coming for you. First is obvious. Fish that can swallow a beta whole, like most of your cichlids and really any monster fish. I know, thanks Captain Obvious, but hey, it's the internet. Imagine the emails I'd get that say, "You didn't tell me I couldn't put a beta with a red devil." You laugh, but it would happen. Second is other betas. I know that's another one that seems obvious, but you'd be shocked how many emails we get from people wanting to buy betas from us, and they ask, how many males can I put in a 20 gallon? And last is gouramis. I know that might sound like it came out of left field, but it's true. Betas and gouramis are from the same family of fish, so if you put them together, it's just like putting two betas together. You're asking for a fight. But like I said, betas are my favorite fish, and if they're mixed with the right fish appropriately, then you shouldn't have any problems.
All right, show of hands. How many of you all thought this list was going to start with flowerhorns, betas, and Oscars? That's what I thought. In the last segment, we had one of Lisa's favorites, and in this one, it's mine. Oscars hold a special place in my heart. My first two fish when I started in this hobby were an arowana and an Oscar, so I've loved them for over 30 years. But no matter how much I love them, it doesn't change the fact that these fish can be downright brutal to other fish in the tank. My Oscars that you see here when they were only about 4 inches long killed a 14-inch long silver arowana. I wanted to recreate the first tank I ever owned, only about 10 times the size, and for a while things were great. And then they weren't. But the thing is, since then, I've added another Oscar, the red one, and 3 bikers, and there's been absolutely no issues at all. So, I don't know. The first rule with Oscars is a simple one. If it can fit in the Oscar's mouth, it's gone. And I don't care what it is. If you throw a shrimp, frozen fish, hot dogs, a mouse, or even a cricket you found in your yard into your Oscar tank, you're gonna watch it immediately disappear. If you're someone that has a large Oscar like I do, and you bring home a bag of cute little rummy-nosed tetras to put in with them, I don't know how else to say this, but you deserve what you got coming to you. But what about other large fish? Well, just like with my arowana, you just don't know. They can be completely fine for a long time, and then out of nowhere, your Oscar can say, all right, I've had enough. I wish it wasn't true, but it definitely is. I feel like this is a perfect opportunity to tell you, in celebration for my love of Oscars, we've decided to create the promo code OSCAR for 10% off at keepfishkeeping.com. You can order live betas, live plants, snails. You can order fish food, chemicals, all of the equipment you need to run an aquarium. It's all going to be packed by Lisa and I and shipped same day if it's put in before 2 p.m. during the week, Eastern Standard Time. Listen, 10% off if you put Oscar in the promo box at checkout, keepfishkeeping.com. If you want to support the channel, there you go. Tank mates that you should be okay with are larger American cichlids, common plecos, gars, bikers, and yes, arowanas. But again, you never know. You might do it and everything works fine like in my tank now, or you might be starting a war. But don't let that scare you away from these fish. They are absolutely amazing. Anybody that knows me knows I love these fish. And I just want to take this opportunity to remind you, if you haven't heard me say it before, if you don't like Oscars, you can go fuck yourself.
I just want to say this before I start talking about these fish. There will never be a time that I don't like African cichlids. These are the fish that got us where we are today. And they do have issues. We're going to talk about them, but just understand, I will always love them. Peacocks and haps are, well, challenging. Yeah. You're not going to find a group of freshwater fish with more stunning colors and shapes than these fish. There's long ones, short ones, skinny ones, and even fat ones, and there's a rainbow of colors. Plus, there's some of the most active freshwater fish that you'll find in the hobby. But all of that comes at a cost. All African cichlids are aggressive by nature. I'm not sure why they're so mad all the time, but they are, and most people who keep them know that going in. When you start a tank full of peacocks and haps, you know they're going to have to work things out on their own before there's peace. And that could mean that you'll lose a few, or they could all get along and never have any issues. It's pretty much a roll of the dice. But again, if you fill your aquarium with these fish, you know you're automatically going to have a lot of activity and a lot of color. So sometimes it's worth the risk. My best advice for a peacock and hap tank is to give them plenty of room while also providing them places to retreat to get away from aggression, like caves or rocks they can just go hide behind. Always add them in groups of 3 or more, and this is really important. If you just add one, all of the existing fish are going to focus on that new guy, and it could end really bad. And if you already have a peacock and hap tank and suddenly they all start fighting, we've found that a good strategy to stop this is to take everything out of the tank and completely redecorate it. This kind of resets things and gets the fish to focus on their new surroundings rather than wanting to kill each other. But like I said, I love these fish. They've completely changed my life, and I believe they're worth the hassle.
I'm going to tell you a story that's going to sum up what owning a red-tail catfish is like. I had one way back in 2010, and it was maybe like 5 inches long. This fish was a bottomless pit and would completely gorge himself on any food I put in the tank. I'd have to stand there and feed him. Once he couldn't fit anything else in his mouth, I'd be able to feed the other fish. It was definitely worth it though, because this is a really cool fish, but one day I decided to switch things up and feed the fish night crawlers, and I'm talking about big, long, fat night crawlers that were probably 8 inches long. The first one goes in and the red-tailed cat slurped it up like a piece of spaghetti. Second one goes in, same thing. Then the third, then the fourth. Finally, I just threw 4 more in and hoped the other fish would get them. They didn't. That one red-tailed catfish that was about this big ate all 8 of those big, giant, fat night crawlers. And what I saw afterwards was disturbing. That 5-inch fish had eaten so much that it looked like he swallowed a golf ball. He was down on the bottom of the aquarium, couldn't swim, and was just sitting there, laying on the substrate on that big golf ball, just kind of teetering back and forth like this. It was horrifying. It totally reminded me of Bob McKenzie when he drank all the beer.
Just get me out of here, eh? Come on, eh, you loser. I saved you some, but I had to see everyone's life, eh?
Yeah, well, gee, I don't know how to do that.
Oh, not there.
Okay, how about here?
Oh, that feels good.
Bottom line is, a red-tailed catfish will eat anything and everything in sight and won't stop until it almost blows up. Does that make them mean? Well, not necessarily, but it definitely makes them killers. If you put something in there that can fit in its mouth, you can consider it gone. And just like most catfish, their mouths are way bigger and can expand way farther than you might think. Just listen, if you're going to keep one, understand what you're getting into, have a tank that's big enough, and if you can support them, go for it.
Angelfish are some of the coolest fish in the hobby. Their unique shape and long flowy fins make them look super awesome. But these angels, they have a dark side to them. Angels look like one of those peaceful fish that wouldn't harm a fly if it landed in an aquarium, and for the most part, they are until they find a partner to breed with, and then things can get really ugly. If you're new to this hobby, you might not be aware that angels are cichlids, which puts them in the same family as some of the other fish on this list, like flowerhorns, oscars, peacocks, and haps. They're generally harmless and much less aggressive than those others, but once they decide it's time to breed, things change drastically. Look at it like a bear protecting its cubs. That's what angels do too. When they pair off, they'll find a spot in the aquarium to lay their eggs. The male and female claim that area as theirs and begin prepping it to spawn, and that's the moment that everything else in the tank is forbidden from entering that space. Once it's ready and they actually lay eggs, then that's when the parental instincts kicks in, and they'll defend those eggs to the death, and that doesn't stop until the eggs hatch into fry, and the fry grow to where they're independent of the parents. And even that's not where it ends. Once the fry get to where they're independent from the parents, they redo it again and again and again, and it just keeps happening. Like a never-ending cycle of angels. This is why fish keepers that breed angels will usually have a tank that's just for the pair of breeding fish, and they just keep them in there by themselves. They can spawn all they want without the stress of needing to protect the eggs and without other fish dying because of it. Isolating the parents normally results in much larger broods and more frequent spawns, so it works out for everyone. But with all that being said, I absolutely love angels. As long as they're not breeding, they can pretty much get along with almost any fish. Definitely a fish that every fish keeper should keep at least once.
Okay, I thought it was important to put a fish on this list that maybe not everybody's heard of, and there's no better example of that than the jardini arowana, the fish that makes all other arowanas look bad. When I say look bad, I'm not talking about their appearance. They're a really cool looking fish that resemble a short and stout silver arowana, but there's a huge difference. These fish have a reputation for being one of the nastiest fish in the aquarium hobby. I've studied arowanas literally for decades. They are the fish that got me interested in this hobby. And one story that I've never heard was, oh, I had that jardini arowana and it was just so sweet and laid back. Instead, it's more like, that was the worst experience of my life. That fish provided me with years of misery. Why are these fish so mean? I have absolutely no idea. Maybe it's because they lack the size of their big brother, the silver arowana. It's possible. Maybe it's because there's 50 silver arowanas sold for every one jardini because the silvers are much prettier and more graceful. Could be. Or maybe it's the fact that with them closely resembling Asian arowanas, which is illegal to keep in the US, and every day people see them and say, oh my God, we can get Asian arowanas now. I'll take them. Only for the pet store to say, no, that's not an Asian. It's just a jardini. And then that potential owner says, oh, well, never mind then. I don't know what it is that makes them so mean, but they definitely are. And it's a huge shame because it's a really cool looking fish. Hey, did you like our list and want to see 3 more fish tank murderers? Well, click the join button down below. Become a channel member where we're going to give you 3 bonus things in a members only video that's exclusive to only members, which is why it's called members only. Don't forget to use the word Oscar in all caps at checkout at keepfishkeeping.com to get 10% off. Hey, order anything you want. We'll give you 10% off just for watching this video. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I can't wait to see you again next week. See ya.